I was like a really good player.
Just the appreciation of basketball at all levels.
Yeah, I'm a player. I feel like I just gotta get on the court. You know, I feel like if I get the opportunity to get on the court, that's where the name comes from. Everyday guys and the everyday conversations we have.
How is it over there? Like, what have you guys done so far?
Honestly, it's just been like preparation for the season, and I mean, you can ask any overseas hooper. Preseason preparation and just like preseason in general is by far the worst thing. The only good thing about it is that the weather's usually nice wherever you're at, and you kind of have. I mean, you don't have games, ones that count for anything. So guys on the team are a lot more willing to do some off the court stuff. You can get to know your teammates a little bit better during that time. But the grind is like you got testing for new guys, you got medical stuff, you got weights, you got conditioning, you got to implement all the sets, the game plan. I mean, it's so much to do in such a little period of time that it's an exhausting period in the overseas season.
I mean, so you get there and then obviously the living situation is all set up.
Yeah. So I'll walk you through it. So I got here. This year was a little bit of an outlier because I got here a little earlier to go to Paris with friends for the Olympics. But how it works is I'll make it seem like I'm one of the guys that came when the rest of the imports did. You arrive, you're a team manager or someone associated with the club picks you up from the airport. Usually have signs or stuff, so you know it's them. They drive you to your apartment right away. You get settled in, and then usually they give you, if you have it in your contract, they give you your car or whatever else the case may be. And in the next hour or two, depending on how far the gym is, you either walk or someone picks you up to the gym to give you a tour of the facilities. And then you'll probably have the rest of the day off to just kind of, buy groceries, get acclimated to the time change, whatever the case may be. And then the first couple of days is all medical testing. So for us, we did heart test, stress test. We did like a bike test. Obviously, all the baseline stuff: your blood pressure, your height, your weight, that kind of thing. Some clubs go even more advanced, where they do medical imaging on past injuries. You consult with the doctor. It's just all these blood work, everything to make sure that you're physically fit and okay to play. And then once you pass all of those tests, your contract gets enforced, where now you can officially be a player for the club. And then the following days is all physical testing. You're doing conditioning stuff, you're doing weights, just for them to get a baseline of where you're at as a player. And slowly but surely, team practices start. Maybe since you arrive, maybe like the fourth or fifth day, and then it becomes installation, team principles, so all that kind of stuff, and you quickly just have a packed schedule out of nowhere. So you gotta be ready to roll as soon as you get to the country.
When is your first game?
Regular season or preseason?
I mean, when preseason, let's say.
Yeah, so I got here. We started our prep August 6th, and we just played our first two games this past week and weekend. So we had a game on Monday, I want to say Tuesday, and then we were in France this past weekend playing two games. One against the Champions League team, St. Quentin. Canadian actually plays on the team, Noah Kirkwood.
Yeah.
And then Harvard guy. And then Sunday we played against a Pro B team, which is the second division in France. Played against them. Now we're prepping this whole week, and then this weekend we have a tournament at our place. So this preseason we'll probably play, I think it's 7 or 8 games. First official game is September 13th. So that counts towards the league.
So you guys practice like legit, like 2, maybe 3 weeks, and then get into the game.
Yeah. So legitimately practicing, you go from August. I think our first practice was August 11th or 12th, and the first game is September 13th. 4 weeks. 4 weeks, I'd say. Yeah. And that's filled with, a typical day, at least in our preseason, is you do weights or conditioning in the morning. followed for an hour, let's say 10 to 11, followed by non-contact practice where it's running through sets, doing a little bit of, pick and roll work, whatever the case may be. For another hour or so, rest, go back to your apartment, and then you're doing contact practice from 4 to 6, where that's, live stuff and doing the plays with defenders and 1-on-1, 2-on-2, all that kind of stuff.
So when they play exhibition games,
Yeah.
obviously you didn't prepare that much. You spent 2 to 3 weeks and you play games right away. Do you find that? I mean, this is your third team, so do you find that some coaches approach those exhibition games a little differently, or do you kind of? Because I'm trying to think of it from my perspective. Like I try to take preseason games as okay, like give kind of everyone a chance a little bit and then see
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
working and whatnot. Versus
yeah.
some coaches like try to win everything.
That's a good question. I think with my first year in split, it was definitely more of what you just said, the latter, where the coach kind of tries out the rotations that would mimic a regular season game, and then if that's not working, then he switches things up. But in Hungary, it was I'd say a little bit more of split minutes. Here, it's interesting because we've installed a good amount of our playbook for the
Yeah.
preseason, and there's a rule where before the first regular season game, the coach has to submit 2 preseason games, full game film, so that your opponent who's playing you first can do a proper scout.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going into game one with absolutely no idea of how the team plays. And his method of how he approaches preseason games changes whether or not he's sending that game in to the league or whether he's not sending the game into the league. So our first preseason game, he was going to send it. We only played one set, and it was practically just like kind of like street ball offensively. Defensively, he wanted to make sure we would do our principles. It was relatively even-ish minutes across the board, but offensively, he only told us to run one set. And then a game that wouldn't be sent to the league, which was the last one we played on Sunday. We tried out, 7, 8, 9 different sets to see what works and what doesn't. So there's little things like that where you have to kind of play the game in order to give the league what they want, so that teams have a proper scout, but not show your hand too much to where you reveal these plays early on in the year.
How many games are in a season?
Varies from league to league. So obviously,
Your league.
Yeah, so my league is, we play in the B.6 league, which is Belgium and Netherlands, and there's 10 teams in Belgium, and I want to say maybe 8 in Netherlands, and you play each team home and away. So that's 36 games plus the cup, plus playoffs for the teams that make it. Overall, I think the season will probably be somewhere close to 50-ish, games.
That's a lot.
Yeah, to be honest, it's relatively, I'd say, smack middle. There's some teams who play in 2 leagues in their countries, to where they play 70 plus. My buddy in Japan, he plays almost an NBA schedule, and then there's other leagues where, usually the lesser leagues where you don't have international competition and you only have your domestic league, and there's less teams in your domestic league, and you only play about 25-ish games in a year. So it really varies depending on where you're at.
I mean, it's a lot of games, but it's compared to the NBA, obviously it's not as much. And do you find that these coaches, like from the get-go, they're trying to just win games and not even try stuff, like, because in the NBA you can tell, like October, November, they're just kind of going through the motions a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Do you find that it's different in Europe?
Yeah, there's 2 things though. So while there's less games in Europe, I would say 82 NBA regular season games equates to like 35, 40 European games, just because every single game counts. Every single possession matters. Obviously, when you're speaking about EuroLeague, that's a whole different beast. But even these domestic leagues and some of the lower rungs of Europe, games are aggressive, right? And every single game counts and matters towards the league. So in that regard, even though there's less games, I'd say it's much more, physical and demanding on the body. And the style of play, like you said, I think because it's such a short window and every game matters, coaches really try and from the get-go do exactly what they feel will translate to wins. You know, if it's changing a lineup rotation, if it's taking a play out of the book, if it's adding something, like you're right away from September, you're automatically looking to win games, because the season does fly by quickly and you have less opportunities to do so. Where in the NBA, like you said yourself, 80% of the season is kind of like coasting until you get to the point where you need to get some wins or do whatever you need to do to make a playoff. But it's definitely different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
How is Belgium compared to Hungary?
man, it's night and day. Like if you speak to anyone who's played overseas for an extended period of time, the difference you can have in situation on and off the court from year to year is insane. Like, last year in Hungary, I've had guys who played. I've heard guys who played in Hungary who've had great experiences, right? But just with how we played on the court and then where I was located off the court, the combination of those two things really made it tough. Like, no, I'd say I'm a mentally strong guy, but it really tested me. In the dog days of the season, it was very, very tough. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, if I have to keep doing this year after year, like, I don't know how long I can play overseas basketball. It's really hard. And leaving to Belgium this summer, I felt a little bit of that feeling, because I was just so, I'm not scared, but I was just so used to how I felt for those 10 months in Hungary that I was afraid that would be right what I would fall into here in Belgium.
Yeah,
But
what if that comes back type of thing?
exactly, where it's like those, and sometimes they say, like, when the season's over, time flew by.
Yeah.
Well, in Hungary, it literally it didn't even feel like 10 months. It felt like 2 years. And I didn't want to feel that again here. And it's been absolutely amazing. The living situation is phenomenal. The city is great. Close to the gym, the accommodations, everything's awesome. And most importantly, teammates, coaches, all very, 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 caring guys, invested in the team, want to build relationships, a social group. Like, it really does make all the world of difference for guys like us who have to leave our countries and come play elsewhere. If you're in a good environment, it makes it much, much more enjoyable. So
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I kind of talked about before, like, about luck, right?
yeah,
Obviously, some of these things you can do research on, some to a certain degree, but
yeah,
it's, sometimes it's just luck. Like, you just walk into a team that has really good culture, where you go to the gym and you go to the practice feeling like, okay, I want to do this, rather than you kind of dragging it, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah, like, I think whenever you're being recruited, right? The team will never sell that they have a bad culture, or that they, like you said, you can do your research. And a lot of the times when you hear bad things about clubs, it's generally about them not paying on time,
yeah,
whatever the case may be. But until you really get there and feel what it's like, you never really know. And I think that half the battle is getting lucky, like you said. The other half is having a very good agent, right?
mm,
I think agents know a lot more about situations than the players, of course. And if you have an agent who's very knowledgeable and knows a lot of these programs, personally, it helps to put you in a situation where they know you'll thrive. And I think that was the case here. Brussels was one of the first teams that reached out to me, and my agent was very keen on kind of not pushing me towards, but like emphasizing how well of a fit he thought it would be. And it really has been that. Like, the way the coach wants to, grow this program, the culture he tries to instill, the kind of players he recruits, everybody shares a very, common view on how they want to play basketball, and what kind of team they want to be a part of, which is, when that kind of stuff aligns, it's very, very, very good.
uh, d- do you have? I guess my question is, okay, having a good culture, how does that come about, right? Like, is it obviously it has something to do with the coach, obviously,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it's got something to do with the players that has been around for a long time. Do you have guys like that, like vets that have been around for
Yeah,
a long time?
yeah. So once again, you hit the nail on the head. The coach is obviously a very, very important piece. They're the ones that instill the day-to-day culture and make sure it's held to a standard. But as you probably very well know, a coach can only contribute to so much. The players are by themselves, a lot of the time, and that's where vets come in, and vets overseas are very, very, very important. Good vets can make a program, bad vets can break a program. And with us here, we're mixed in age, but there we have a 34-year-old who's played pro now for 17 seasons, I think. Belgian national team, most of his career. Just a very, very good guy and great player, but understands what it takes to build a team off the court. The relationships, the kind of culture you need, the kind of environment you need on the day to day. He's always the one, trying to get guys to go out to lunch together, make like little things. I walk into a locker room, they're speaking French. As soon as I walk in, they flip right to English. Little things like that are such small details, but as I said before, the small details stack up and create big things like a good culture. We have another older guy. His name's Terry. He's in his early 30s as well. Been around the Belgian scene for a very long time. Same thing. It's just they have this character where they're able to lead and lead the right way, and that makes the world of difference in creating a culture and maintaining a culture overseas.
Yeah, and that's probably something that I don't know if we'll struggle with it, but I'm kind of eager to find out is even for my team, for example, like it's a high school team, but
Yeah,
we have guys that some of them, Dom, Cam, Anderson, Tyson, and all these guys that have been here for a long time, and they're all gone. Every single one of them is gone,
yeah,
right? So it's uh, it's definitely it's gonna be an interesting year for me as well, just to figure out how to still have that culture that we had last year and the year before without these
yeah,
guys, right?
yeah.
So it's gonna be it's definitely gonna be challenging, but I'm also curious how some of these other guys will kind of rise to the occasion and build that culture.
Do you kind of, as a coach, do you let it happen organically, or do you, in your mind, have guys could take the role in establishing a solid culture, and then you kind of try and nudge them towards that responsibility? Or, like I said, is it something that you just let organically play out in the hope that the right people, step forward and maintain a culture that you want?
I think I think in this day and age in high school basketball, kind of letting them organically step up is a
Yeah,
risky thing
yeah,
because there's a good chance that nobody steps up,
yeah,
right? I find that I find that there's not a lot of like natural leaders
yeah.
in high
It's
school.
it's it's a little bit of a skill too.
No, it is for sure. Like a guy like Tyson, like he was probably the most important person on our team. Was he the
Yeah,
absolute best player? Was he the most skilled player? No, but without him in practice, without him in competition, like it was going to be difficult for us, right?
yeah,
A guy like
yeah.
that talks all the time, that is, holding each other accountable all the time, thinks about the team all the time. Now, was he always like that from the get go? I wouldn't say so, right? He had a certain energy where it could have gone both ways, either way, right? He could have gone to a side where he's an ultimate leader, whereas he could have gone to a side where he's selfish and he's thinking about himself only. But I think when there is a bit of a talent, like you try to evaluate a player not only on the basketball court but also like personality too and character.
Yep.
And
Yep.
when you see the potential in, okay, he can be a leader maybe, then you really work with him to be a
Yep.
leader, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I still think it's it's hard, man. It's hard to find that leaders that are just natural.
Yeah. I think it's especially tough in your case where, like I said, there's these vets that are very established in, for my purpose now, the country I'm in, the Belgian scene, and they naturally, with their age and their experience, take over that leadership and culture role. But for you, like you said, with your first graduating class gone, and now everyone's kind of on the same level and not really too different in age. It is, I guess, very interesting from your end to see who steps up, how these things form, and how you're able to keep this level of consistency as graduating classes continue to, move on and new players come in for a short period of time.
It's hard to gain the respect from the whole team when you're the same age. You
Yes.
know, you could be the oldest guy, but you're still 18 years old,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm sure when you see a vet on your team that's, I don't know, 33, 34 years old, that's been doing that for a while, like you ultimately, like he already grabs your respect a little bit because he's
Of
been doing
course.
it for a long time. Whereas
Yep.
like a high school kid, they're all the same age,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I find that a lot of good players, a lot of talented players nowadays don't really want to take on that responsibility of being a leader
Yeah.
because it's a hard thing to do, one, but it's also like an extra responsibility that might not come with the most amount of reward, you
Exactly.
know? So
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think, but I think when they do realize how important the skill set is, like the leadership skill set, like they'll do it. But I don't. It's very hard to get their brain around. Being a good leader is a good thing.
And just to show the importance of this, when I was being scouted by Brussels, I went on a long phone call with the head coach, and he has access to film. He's able to watch the kind of player I am on the court. He knows all these things without me telling him. But 70% of the phone call, and I was on the phone with him for almost 2 hours, was about leadership qualities, how you see yourself doing this within a team. And the answers you give can make or break whether or not you get a contract, right? And obviously, it's easy for players to lie and say, I'm the greatest leader ever, and then you're a mute. But what I'm trying to emphasize is that coaches look for these things as well, right off the bat. Not even like, let's sign him and then hope he's a leader. No, let's do our research and see whether or not he has leadership capabilities from the jump. And it's like you said, it's not a very rewarding thing in the case of you can't really measure it. It's
Yeah.
not on the stat sheet, but it is a vital piece to the success of a basketball program.
No, for sure. There's the right programs, the programs that do it good and that are successful. They always look for leaders, right?
Always.
Always look for leaders because I mean, that's to me like that's the definition of how basketball should be played, right? Like as
Yeah.
a team, and it's not all individual. It's all there's got to be a cohesion, and there's got to be a group that not that they don't have to like each other off the court,
Yeah.
but they do work together,
Yeah.
right? To me, that's the best. That's the biggest thing, and having chemistry as well, having unselfish people. That's how it's to me, that's the definition of how it's supposed to be played, right?
Two things about this, because now you're just all the stuff you're saying is very prevalent to all this preseason work we're doing and like building team identity.
Yeah,
Last week we had a coach who now works with the local youth team in Brussels. He's a Spanish coach,
yeah,
and he was, man, I forget the teams he said, maybe Bilbao. And he's been in ACB for a decade and a half. A very experienced assistant coach in the ACB. Went to the ACB finals. Has a very good resume as a coach. Spoke to us, came to watch our practice, and then spoke to us after as a team. And our coach asked him, you've been in some good seasons and some bad seasons. What defines a good team?
mm,
And one of his main answers was respect. He said, respect for yourself, respect for your teammates, respect for the facilities, respect for being prepared to play, respect for everyone you associate with on a daily basis, which is a generic answer, but when you think of it, it does encompass a lot of things. And then just about the chemistry, he said a vital part to the success of a team is taking the time to build relationships off the court. He's like, every single good team I've known has gone out together. You know, he's like, if a team comes to practice the next day dragging their feet and I hear it's because they all had a great time the night out, I'm not mad whatsoever. He's like, obviously, if this happens repeatedly, it's an issue, right? But he says you need to enjoy spending time with each other off the court in order to build that on-court chemistry. He says you should be at lunches together. You should be doing this, and that. And that's where the leadership ties into. You sometimes need people to initiate these things. And for those who don't maybe know basketball or understand basketball that well, I can't emphasize enough how crucial it is to have this kind of relationship with your teammates off the court if you wish to be successful on the court. It's always going to be the case. They're going to correlate. Yeah,
I agree, and I guess there's a difference between, you're kind of forced to go.
Yeah.
Because I did sometimes, like to these guys, I'm like, yo, let's go out for lunch together.
Yeah.
But it's another thing for them to just go by themselves because they want
because they genuinely want to.
They want to spend the time together, right?
Yeah.
And then I think that's the level. When you get to that point, you're at the pinnacle.
Yep.
It sounds crazy that a team is going out for lunch together, and that's like the telltale sign that you have really good chemistry. But it's true.
Yeah.
But it's true.
It is. So we last week, or maybe the week before, Saturday night, our first day off on Sunday, and me and 7 other guys, and these guys are still relatively new to me. Like I don't really know them too well or whatever. But we decided to go out. We get absolutely loaded, and we end up going out till 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Right, and the next week, like you're just in practice the next day or the day after because we had an off day. All of a sudden, I'm laughing when I see them. We're telling inside jokes. Like we're just like the mood is great in practice, and it's just these little things go such a long way. And like you mentioned, like I mentioned, developing these relationships that will allow you to understand each other better, gain respect for each other better, and then that turns into listening to one another more, trusting that he's going to be there on rotation, wanting to make that extra pass because you want to see him succeed because you like him more as a person. All these little things are these micro details that come together as a whole to create a team that enjoys playing well together and for each other. And that's, like we mentioned a million times, crucial to having a good year and a good season.
Yeah, and that's one of my philosophies is that everyone needs to open up.
Yep.
Right? And I have when parents come in for the first time and they want to know more about our program, and there are some questionable questions, I would say, right? That parents ask about playing time, role, all those things that are important. But one thing, the main thing I tell them is that none of those things are guaranteed. But the only thing that's guaranteed is that he's gonna open up a lot more, right? Through what we do, through the culture that we have, they're going to open up a lot more. And as a result, they're going to play better basketball. And they're always like, some parents are like, like, my son is fine. Like, he doesn't even open up. He doesn't have to. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
But
no. But that's the wrong idea.
Exactly. The side I see is that, okay, he's an introverted kid. He doesn't know how to express his feelings or opinions. So by the end of, 2 to 3 months of training together, being together, if he's able to open up and really talk about his feelings and his, what he thinks, it's just going to be a lot better for him because he's going to be more free on the court. But
there's absolutely no downside. There's no downside to what you just shared.
Yeah, there's no
Like,
downside.
yeah, yeah,
And that's something that a lot of these, and that's a challenge for me as a high school coach, is that a lot of kids nowadays don't really want to take that extra responsibility to reach out to other people, talk to other people, because they can be on their phones and be
yeah,
themselves, be by
yeah.
themselves, right? But one thing that I'm trying to teach is that, hey man, like actually opening up and talking to other people, that's gonna benefit you like a lot more than you think,
Yep.
right? And that's something that is probably the biggest challenge nowadays with the phones, and um, a lot of them don't even, they can't even hold conversations.
I'm 27. We have four 30-year-olds, grown men,
Yeah,
and every single team lunch and team dinner, our coach comes around with a massive bucket.
no
Throw
way.
your phone in. Throw your phone in. Grown men, and nobody. I mean, okay, obviously, if we had our say, people probably wouldn't be like, "Yeah, let me give you my phone." But still, it's also not like we pop our phones in now it's just dead silent. We have nothing else to can't look at your phone. So yeah, you do talk to each other, and then all of a sudden you have great conversations, and it's like soon enough now we've been together for a little bit longer, 3 4 weeks. Now it's like you're not even thinking, oh, let me pop my phone in, let's talk. Like it's not like a drag where the first time it
Mm,
happened, everyone I was kind of looking around like, you guys do this here? Um, but yeah, it's definitely tougher with the high school scene, I'd say, than the pros because, like I said, you have these vets who know that this is essential to success. Um, but also, my coach, for example, does a great job here of creating a comfortable enough culture to where you feel like like it's a safe space to open up and like I think with the pros, for a lot of guys who are here for only a year and then bounce to another team, you don't necessarily feel that much like of a connection to the club, right? I think here in Brussels they do a great job of really making you feel appreciated, even though you may only be here for 1 year, but like you're a valued part of this program. And just a little thing. So my coach, the strength staff, and everyone involved, we have a questionnaire that we have to fill out after every single practice, shoot around, weights, live practice, games, absolutely anything we do on the court. And it is a Google form,
yeah,
whatever questionnaire. It asks what was the level of vigorousness of the practice from 1 through 10. Asks you your sleep quality, asks you your mood today, asks you if you felt any pain, to locate it where on the body, to what extent was the pain, and then your thoughts on, like, we have a little color scale on how well practice was, and you submit that. And you would think at first that it's like, oh, this is kind of bullshit. Like, why is he making me
yeah.
do this? But they look at it every single day and they adjust their practices based on, for example, let's say they wanted to have a difficulty practice of 5,
Yeah.
and a lot of guys put a 7 or an 8. If next day's practice was supposed to be a 7, they'll lower it to a 4 to manage guys. Or I one time, because I hurt my back a couple of days ago, I put my mood a little worse than usual. The next morning, coach automatically took me to the side. He was like, "Well, what's the deal with the like? What's up?" And I explained to him that it was because of the back. But it's these little things where it's like, wow, I actually just filled out that my mood wasn't great, and he read it and felt the need to come and bring it up with me. And these little things add to this culture where you want to be a part of it, and you
Yeah.
want to open up and share, like you mentioned, that you probably have a hard time doing with the high school kids.
You know that episode in Ted Lasso when they fix the shower,
Oh yeah, because you put the suggestions box.
shower pressure.
Yeah, yeah, when you put the
But it's
suggestions
I
boxes
was
in.
looking at that, I'm like, man, like it's not so much about the shower. It's more about
I'm
like
hurt.
players feel like the program cares about you, the team
Yes,
cares about
exactly.
you, the people who
Yeah.
are, I guess, quote unquote above you care about you,
Yes.
right? Like those things do matter, right? Like
Yep.
it's hard for a program, a team, or a coach for us to ask the players to care about the team, right? Just force them to care about the teams. It doesn't work like that,
Yep.
right? But if you care enough about them, they're gonna care back, right? They're gonna want to feel like, oh, I want to be a part of this thing,
Exactly.
right? And
And
that's
and
there's an art to it, I think, and it's hard to explain how you do it, right? Everyone is asking like, how do you guys have such a good culture? Um, and people talk about the players that we have as well. Oh, because of Tyson, because of this guy, because of that guy. But I really do think, yeah, for sure, those guys really, really helped creating a culture. But at the same time, there is a method, right? There
yeah,
is a method. It's hard to explain, but if I had to kind of force myself to explain, it's honestly, you have to give a shit. You have to care, which is a crazy thing to just say.
yeah.
It
So much
sounds
easier said
simple.
than yeah,
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 it
yeah.
sounds simple, but actually, you got to care about them as human beings first.
I think we brought it up on a past episode, and you might have been the one to mention it, but I think kids, especially younger, honestly, can do a great job of sensing who's faking it
Mm.
and who's genuinely, like you said, giving a shit.
Yeah,
Um, and and I think that when, like you said, it's very tough to describe. It's this intangible thing that just kind of happens. But when you have guys who run a program like you for Polaris or my coach here in Brussels, when you genuinely give a shit and you're a good person, you tend to your energy, I think, tends to attract people who are of similar, nature, and that's sometimes where you have an interaction with a potential player and you think like, oh yeah, this guy will be a great fit for our program because
mm.
you yourself know what you value and what you look for in other players, right? That's kind of the head of the snake, knowing what a culture needs. And I think, like you said, it's just still very tough to straight up describe it, but there is a science to it. And you summed it up pretty well. Just giving a shit and being around people who also give a shit.
Yeah, and I think the part of the problem with high school basketball in Canada is that there's so many programs that act like they act like they care, but they
Yeah,
really don't, right? And you know, like unless they really become a part of like what we do, I mean, become a part of what the culture is about, they won't know what it is, right? They won't
yeah.
know what it is, and grass is always greener. And like, I had one kid quit not too long ago, and the parent was saying one of the reasons is because I don't like his Instagram posts.
Like your Instagram posts?
No, I'm not liking the kid's Instagram post,
Oh, okay, okay.
and
Like what,
he's
like what was the kind of stuff that the kid was posting?
no, just like basketball stuff and
Okay.
whatever he's posting on Instagram. Oh, man, like you don't even like his posts anymore. One of the reasons, right? But you're like,
Yeah, it's just that reason enough just shows the kind of mind space they're in about. Yeah,
but, and then like I put it on a speaker because it was later at night, and my wife is hearing that too. She's like, man, like this is the stuff that you go through every day. I'm like, not
yeah,
every day, but this happens, right?
yeah,
Like, but they try to figure out a reason why to leave, right?
yeah.
Like you, couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they're saying, "Oh, we're the greatest. You guys care so much," and then once they figure out a reason what to leave, now they're like, "I'm trying to come up with multiple reasons why I don't like this program,
Yeah, yeah,
team, coach,
yeah,
whoever."
yeah, 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 yeah.
Right?
Where you
And
where you focus your mind on, you'll be able to find answers,
exactly,
even ones that aren't true.
exactly, right?
Yeah,
And at that point, you're just like, man, whatever, man, right?
yeah,
Um, so it's just that I find that it is very tough to get people to buy in to what you do because
Yeah.
there are so many other programs, right? So many programs that sell you a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Your situation is obviously much different than the pros. You want to have the same goal. You want guys to buy in and to believe they're part of something great. But for you, these kids are choosing to come to your program, paying to come to the program. There's a million other options that they can, audible to if they don't like where they're at. Where with the pros, obviously you are getting paid. You're under a contract. If you don't like or agree with some of the things going on, or if you're just delusional and think the club's out to get you, there's a chance you leave and don't find another job. There's all these other variables that make it a little bit more difficult and a little easier to get players to buy in for that year. Um, but yeah, the prep scene is from, I mean, the guys that I speak to who are involved with that stuff. It just seems like year after year it gets more and more insane when it comes to trying to get a hold of these kids and show them the right way, and it's nuts.
No, but I mean that's kind of the same in high school basketball too, right? Where yeah, they might not necessarily not have a job as a basketball player in high school,
Yeah,
but I would say I'm pretty connected with like coaches in Canada and coaches in NCAA. Like they are going to ask me my opinion, right?
yeah,
They're
yeah,
always going to ask me for my opinion when it comes to recruiting a kid because
yeah,
I'm trying to be as honest as possible, right? So when a kid like that who has a parent like that calls me, I mean the coach calls me asking about that specific kid's character and parents and whatnot. Like, what should I do, right? Do
yeah,
I? Because I still like the kid. Like I don't hold anything against anybody. But do you still tell the truth and be like, yeah, that parent is a handful because
yeah,
you don't
yeah,
also want to lie to the NCAA coaches. What if you
yeah,
lie and he goes and he's like messing up the whole program and he's a
yeah,
cancer in program, like then what, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's definitely difficult. It's definitely
It's
difficult when it comes to that.
it's funny you brought that up because my I won't name specifics just so we don't get anyone's specific name involved. But a Serbian coach in a European league reached out to me asking me my honest opinion on a player I played with in college. And this was this player's first year coming out of college, so it would have been his first overseas job. And I know for a fact that this player probably didn't have that many options to choose from. So it was kind of like, a very slim pickings when it came to his first overseas job. And it just so happened that my opinion of the player for the time I spent with him wasn't great. I didn't think they were a good person in the way they handled themselves in the locker room, nor did I think they showed professional level skill on the court. And so in my mind, I'm like, maybe it was just that season that guy was like that. Do I give him the benefit of the doubt and not take away a chance for him to play at this? It might be his only pro contract for that summer, or do I am I honest and give my honest opinion to, because this coach is asking me for my recommendation. Like you said, what if I say all these glowing things, then he gets there and it's not a glowing, recommendation, then my word is up for question. So that was actually a little dilemma I juggled with because he messaged me, the coach first messaged me and said he would call me the next couple of days, and I was juggling with what I should do for quite some time.
So what did you do?
What do you think I did? Because I know what you think I did.
I think I think you probably told him that you didn't spend enough time with them to really judge him?
That's a good answer. I thought you were going to say you probably just gave the glowing recommendation,
No,
but
no, no, no.
and then I was pretty brutally honest. And then I did end it with, because it was the truth, that I've heard from others who were associated with the guy for longer that season may have been an outlier in his behavior. But solely from my experience, this is what that's kind of how I handled it. And he didn't end up going to that team, and me and the coach still stay in touch. And if he ever, has other recommendations or needs other recommendations for some players, he's reached out a couple times. So I think I handled it the right way, and I always think just being honest is probably the best policy, especially when your word's involved in this kind of overseas stuff. 'Cause it's a very small circle.
No, it is. Basketball as a whole is a small circle. It's always
exactly.
about asking different people's opinions, and it's not always about me seeing the kid and then I'm just gonna get the kid.
Yep.
Like you have to do so much background research, right?
This is another side note, because all these things are bringing up stories that I remember with Split.
Yeah.
My first year, obviously, I played a couple of games, and then I was injured and had to go home for surgery. And when I left, I actually had a contract in place for the following season. Yeah. So I signed it, and I was signed for them for the following season. I ended up getting my surgery, doing my rehab, and I have a medical checkup in Split 6 to 7 months into my my recovery. So I wasn't fully ready to go, but it's come a long way since my surgery. I get a medical scan, an MRI in Split, and the doctors get it back, the Split doctors, and they deem me unable to play. And they said that the surgery didn't show that it fully fixed the problem, and that they didn't feel comfortable signing me under contract, whatever the case may be. And I was pretty upset because my surgeon back home was saying everything was great, and he's the one that did the operation. The doctors in Split didn't even want to talk to my surgeon in Canada. There was no communication between their team and the guy who actually did my surgery. And I was pretty upset about the whole deal, because they cut the contract and I was jobless. And the general manager from Split, or the sports director, who I had a good relationship with, he was the one who kind of broke down all the news. And I handled the situation very well because I have respect for him. And I didn't make a scene or, say anything I would have regretted, even though I was very, very upset.
Right.
Regardless, fast forward, a few weeks later, I signed to Korment in Hungary. And when I get to Korment, his name's Teo Cizmic, the sports director of Split. He was a coach a few years back in Korment. And the assistant coach is talking to me at Korment, and he goes, yeah, we were very interested in you. We were kind of on the fence with everything, but then we did a thorough, a deep dive into speaking to other people about you as a person, and people had good things to say. And then honestly, Teo Cizmic from Split really sold you and said great things about you, and his recommendation means a lot to us. So we signed you right after that. And it just shows that you being a good person and handling these relationships professionally and intelligently can help you down the road. What if I freaked out, said all kinds of things to him about, what I thought, why I thought they were cutting my contract, whatever the case may be. I get a potential look from Cormand. They reach out to Teo, who I never knew. I never knew that was a connection between them. And Teo would have said something maybe slightly negative, or had a different perception of me, and then I maybe wouldn't have got the Corman job. So it's just funny how all these things are related. And like you said, the basketball world is so small, where word gets out if you're a bad person or if you're a good person.
Yeah, dealing in situations like that with complete honesty and professionalism, it goes a long way.
Right? A long way.
If this parent told me that, you know what, I don't think my son's going to play a lot, I think he needs more playing time, so I'm just going to move him to somewhere else, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. I completely understand.
Yes,
That'll be good.
Yeah,
But all of a sudden, you're attacking my character, integrity, all these different reasons to leave when you had a plan to leave for a long time. Literally after that phone call, the day after, a kid is announcing where he's gonna go.
yeah,
So it's been quite a few quite the time that he spent to decide. Right
yeah.
now, you're all of a sudden creating all these reasons to bash whatever it is. Now that's gonna come back, right? That's gonna come back. So, and I think it's hard for obviously human beings to leave the emotion out of it, right? But
That's what I was gonna say.
sometimes
I
that's the
think the
best thing
truth.
to do, man.
I think the truth sometimes really hurts with things. And for example, like you just said, okay, the truth is I don't think my son will play. Why? Because my son isn't good enough right now. That's the truth. But then that might hurt. And so instead, you find a million other reasons to justify why you're feeling this way, when in reality, the truth is what the truth is.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously basic human nature, and you see it evident through a conversation between a prep coach and a parent. So
No, you're trying to find a way to like escape truth, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
it is hard to face it, you know.
Yes, yeah, or talk about it with others.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's next for you now? Like, what's when does a season officially start?
Yeah, we're like I said, we have two more preseason games this weekend. Like I said, I had a little bit of a back injury, so I'm rehabbing it a bit now. I should start practicing again tomorrow. And then we have another preseason tournament the following week, and the games start. And so it's we still have a long ways to go before the actual games, another 2.5 weeks. But just practicing every day, prepping, getting ready, and honestly, like everything we are talking about, the culture and the way this team is gelling so far is leaving me very, very, very excited for the year. I think we have a lot of talent, a lot of depth, and a lot of smart guys to where I can't wait to start playing the actual games of the championship.
Do you find that you like set goals before the season? Like, it could be numbers, it could be team achievements, or do you just go about it every day
Me,
and just kind of you
me personally,
personally?
I write down individual goals.
Okay.
I do have a team goal. It's always to win a cup, win the championship, win some kind of piece of hardware overseas, because that's very hard to do. But personally, I set goals and specific numbers. Uh, but for example, once again, you just keep reading stuff up. Today we had a team goals meeting, and our coach was in finance, banking, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, before he was a coach for many years.
All right.
And so he said it before, he runs this team like a company, and not and not a basketball team.
Mm.
And what he means by that is very, very constant communication, hierarchy, structure, discipline in how we do things. And today was an example of that, to where we outlined our goals, and he would basically ask us two pyramids, one regular pyramid, one inverted pyramid. One's about the successes, what is expected, what would be what would you be proud of to accomplish this season, and what is something that you'll tell your grandkids. Those are the three rings. Where the inverse is what would be a disappointment, what would be a total failure, and what would be a downright shame. And so, for example, just for about the positive side, a expectation is to make the playoffs. A something you could be proud of is making it to the finals of the cup.
Right.
Something you tell your grandkids about is winning the league.
Mm.
And then you set those three rungs, and underneath you speak about key attributes that will help you achieve the good goals, or on the inverse side, the things that will the traps you can fall into that would cause you to achieve the failures.
Right.
not achieving failure, but you get what I'm saying. And so we had that meeting today for 2.5, 3 hours, and and he's going to print them out, put them all over the locker room. So it's like tangible, time measured goals that we've set before the season actually starts. That's what we did as a team.
So how would he print that out? He would print out everyone's response.
What we did was separate into groups of two. Two groups of six. There's 12 of us, and one group did the two pyramids. The other group did the two pyramids, and then we came together as a collective group, and we saw which of the same answers we had, and then which groups had different answers, and we decided which one we would put in more to create the entire team pyramid. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he hasn't printed it out yet, but he's taking pictures of it, and I guess they just do like a legitimately just a pyramid and print it out and just put it up on the locker room, so you can walk by your goals every single day and know exactly what you are striving to achieve or trying not to achieve.
I would not have thought that professional teams did stuff like that.
Yeah,
It feels more like
I mean,
Division I or like university, like those college programs.
Yeah, this is my third year, and I've never done anything like this before, or any of these like meetings. But he's very, very, very keen on having these core values, these ideas, like these measurable things, because he's worked with numbers, and like I said, it's in company stuff. You have your company culture and your traditions, and I think he's translated that very well to a basketball sense.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So that's what we do as a team. Individually, I just write on a piece of paper my individual goals.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, don't get hurt.
That's one of the goals. Stay healthy.
Try not to get hurt.
Yeah.
And don't go out too much.
Too much. Don't go out too much. Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Just enough.
Just
Enough to build that culture. Just enough to build that culture.
Exactly. Whatever for the team you got to do.
Yeah. Exactly. If I have to drink a little for the team, I guess I will.
You have to, man.
Yeah.
Take one for the team.
Take one for the team. I'll take a couple for the team.
Oh man. Okay.
All right, man. Well,
that was pretty good.
I think that was one of the fucking better conversations we've had so far. That was good.
Yeah. I'll stop recording.
Maybe something about the